Wow, what a time to be a guitarist. I'm going to play my old man card here and just say that we had nothing like this when we were a teenager. When we were kids and just starting out, we had to bus into the city centre and drive some poor sales assistant mad in a guitar shop while we played very expensive amps that we were never going to buy very loudly. Now, ToneX basically gives us the experience of amps that are just basically impossible to play in the way we'd like to play them, and very expensive to buy for free. And this is what is just absolutely revolutionary about this product, is that you can actually download the app for free and start using captures of amps that cost thousands of euro or dollars or whatever your local currency may be. Given the pronounced Brian May-esque focus of this particular channel, I just thought I'd share my story and let you know that I'm releasing a capture very soon that is just wonderful. You just heard it there in that video for Hammer to Fall. Basically, I ran a little bit of a project in the Red Special forum, which is on Facebook. If you're into this stuff, you should really join it. But in the Red Special forum, I was very lucky to have some of my esteemed fellow aficionados donate some resources, and I hired some AC30s and I bought some gear and I went into a recording studio for 4 days and came out with the 1971 capture. And loads more besides. But the reason why we're doing this video is I just want to talk about that one, because this thing has just kind of just changed my life. Changed my life as a guitarist. I mean, just listen to this thing. This is not the produced audio, but just... Sorry, I'll just get lost playing this thing because I just play it all the time and I just love it. Basically, we got two amps in particular, a CC2X, which is kind of a new enough VOX AC30, and hiding in the back of the hire room was this really, really old, and we reckon it's about 1971 AC30, and it just sounded absolutely gorgeous, and we spent hours playing with this thing to try and capture its sound. So I'll just talk a little bit about like what is now available, and how it is that we got it, I suppose. But just what's available is, if you go to tone.net in the ToneX app and search for my name, Thomas Brunkert, one word, you'll find some of the captures that we came out of the studio with. And we did a couple of things, like where we captured just the amp on its own, that means without the speaker. We captured it with different microphone configurations, 41 mics, 41S and 57, yada yada. We even did one which was a blend of the back of the amp and the front of the amp, which is really, really nice, and it gets that kind of 70s recording tone that you hear in things like the Jazz album and even some modern stuff as well. But the point is that we've got lots of different options, and there was, you know, there's a lot of usable stuff there. But when we actually captured just a full run of this 1971 amp and started playing around with it in Amplitude, it just sort of just blew minds. I mean, like, you can just hear it there. It just sounds and breathes pure tone. Really excited by it, and it's going to be released very soon. To make sure that you get it when it does come out, sign up and join my mailing list on my website, and you'll get a notification when it's available. And there'll be some presets and some instruction how to use it there as well. In the meantime, I'll just explain how we actually had to deal with this. There's plenty of videos about ToneX and how it works on YouTube, and look, you know, the long and short is it's a bit like the Kemper process, except it might be a little bit more involved because it takes a little bit longer to capture the amp. But basically, you send a diagnostic signal into an amplifier that's captured by the computer, and then it uses artificial intelligence to create that into an amp model that you can then use in the ToneX app or within Amplitude 5. And it's reasonably straightforward. If you have an amp and you use it as the amp should be used, it just takes a couple of minutes just to capture that amp, or the amp with a particular microphone, or just that amp without a speaker at all, in fact. And the problem we came up against is it was a bit more involved for what we wanted to do. And it kind of explains a little bit why the captures that kind of came with the higher tiers of ToneX just didn't really cut it for the Brian May sound. And it's really this, is that we're using a VOX AC30 the way Brian does, and the way Brian uses a VOX AC30 exactly is how it does not want to be used. So in other words, we get that poor little amp and we put the normal channel up full. If there's a master volume, that's going up full. And just when you think that it's not suffering enough, we stick a treble booster in front of it that'll kick another 36 dB into the front of it. These amps do not like that, but they still sing rather beautifully when this is done to them. So When you start to do that in the studio, managing the gain staging and trying to get the model amp to react the way we'd expect it to react when we plug a treble booster into the model, took a lot of time and a lot of experimentation. And I think in total, like, I was probably about 32 hours in studios just trying to figure this out with some great guys that know their way around this. A particular shout out to Mick Richards in Track Mix Studio, who's an expert at recording guitar and was instrumental in getting this project to work. But in any case, it took a while, and we got there, and I'm keen to do it again, more on that later. And what I wanted to do today, I suppose, is just try and help people understand how they can get involved with it and how they can actually, start using these things. So the first thing is, ToneX comes in 3 modes of deployment. It comes as a standalone app. It also works as a plugin within a digital audio workstation. And finally, you can actually run it within Amplitude, where ToneX models would take the place of an Amplitude amp or an Amplitude distortion pedal if you're modeling distortion pedals. And, one of the things that we achieved with this, and it's very important, and socialism alert, because this is a bit about democratizing tone, but one thing you can do is you can capture the whole length of a chain of a tone, as long as there's no effects in it, like time-based effects like delays or choruses. So what we did was we set up amps with a treble booster, and we use sort of classic microphones on the speakers as well. And we modeled the whole chain from treble booster to the mixing desk, to the mic preamp. And what that basically means is any kid or anybody, who just wants to spend any amount of money on this, but has an iPhone or a PC or an iPad, they just have to download the ToneX app for free, plug their interface into their device, and then they can start enjoying the tone straight out of the can. And it just sounds great. It actually works and sounds amazing. And I'll probably just do another video just explaining how people can get started on that. I already have one called How to Get the Brimade Tone for Free that kind of hints on this with the iPhone. But I think I might need to do one with a little bit more detail, but we'll come back to that. So straight away, like, the threshold for getting into this is just so much lower. My hope for that is that if it costs less to get good sound, then people are not going to be worrying about gear anymore. And they're going to have to think about things that matter. And that means these hands and your heart, just to get the music to actually work. Because when you actually don't think about gear and you focus on music, you're creating, you're progressing as a musician. And this is what this is really about, not the toys. The toys are good fun, but making music is what we really are about. And this particular tone, I know this is a kind of a nutcase fan channel, but it is actually a very high utility, because what guitar sound can sound so heavy, excuse me, but still so harmonically rich. I'm playing a full A chord there with the third in it, and it just sounds like a little orchestra all by itself. And even the lead lines, this is stuff that sounds more like a bowed instrument. And if people are creating music with those sounds, that's going to be great music. So, this is important for me, that people actually just, again, forget about the gear, just use the digital toys and just actually focus on the music then. So that's great. So how am I using it? My preferred way to use ToneX is to load it up in an Amplitude. And the reason for that is that I don't like to spend too much time tweaking. I'm on a YouTube channel here that's full of tweaking, but I actually don't like doing it. I prefer to play the guitar. So when you have Amplitude, it has a sort of a skeuomorphic sort of idea of how the digital stuff works. In other words, it looks like pedals and cables and things that I can relate to. So in other words, I've spent a lot of time modeling this amp. I'll throw that into a chain in Amplitude, but it means that I can just grab pedals and twist knobs and things like that, just like I would be used to back in the good old days. But also it means that, when it comes to important stuff to the tone, like microphone placements are huge, by the way. Instead of loading lots of impulse responses and looking at stupid file names, I can grab a virtual mic and just point it around the cone till I find a sound that I like, and then I can just get set up very quickly and hit record. Now, why would I be bothering with ToneX if I already have Amplitude 5? And this is a good point, because I've been spending years explaining how Amplitude is just fantastic for getting this tone, and it really is, and it still is. However, ToneX has added another level of realism to it, and it's a type of level of realism that I've had to recreate through tweaking. So ToneX saves time. One of the things that happens when you put a treble booster into a VOX AC30 is the sound when that thing is opened up full, it's quite compressed actually, and that's what helps get the lead lines to really sing, is that, you know, it does even out the sound like a compressor would. I used to try and cheat that with compression in some of my patches, you might have seen that. But because these ToneX amps are more like VOX AC30s, you don't have to do that. There's no time wasted on trying to figure out compression. You put the treble booster in the front of the interface and it actually starts to act as you'd expect a treble booster to do with the real amp. And I have spent a lot of time recently with the real amp, and I can assure you that it is exactly the same in how it works. The other reason why I'm really sort of fond of these is that they are also a little bit more full frequency featured, which is actually kind of cool, because when I'm using these on stage, I have two big wedge speakers in front of me. Well, not big, they're 8-inch speakers, but they're quite loud. And immediately when I started using these, I found getting things like the feedback sounds over chords and sustaining notes through feedback was just an awful lot easier. And even with little speakers like these iLouds that IK Multimedia make, this is what I use at home. It's actually fairly easy enough now to get, you know, good feedback, and that kind of conversation that pickups have with speakers is easier to have at home without having a VOX AC30 up loud, and believe me, they are very loud. So that's why I like to use Amplitude 5. It's just easier to get these things set up, and at the same time, if you didn't want to use Amplitude 5, you can also use it as a plugin, but like Amplitude 5 just makes things easy and it's terrific value and it just works. So that's how that is going. So another question that I'm getting asked about these is, what version of Amplitude 5 do you need to get going with this? Now, my presets will require at least the full version of Amplitude 5, not the free version or the version which just has the Brian May pack. As a matter of fact, the Brian May set, I'm only using the chorus and the phaser and sometimes the amp cabs from that set. Since I got ToneX, I haven't gone near the Brian May amp actually within that set, would you believe? But the Fox phaser sound that is in that set and the chorus sounds, they're still quite useful and quite good. In fact, the phaser is one of the best that you'll hope to hear. I'll just stick it on here and just give you a quick go. So this is like the virtual Fox phaser with a ToneX amp. I'll just get the right volume here. So it's pretty cool, you know. It's like you'd expect that thing to go like. Real nice old clunky 70s sound. So those things are still useful, and I am using the chorus from the set when I'm on stage. I use chorus in the same way Brian uses chorus, which is when you have more than one amp, virtual or otherwise, chorus helps give a bit of separation between those amps, so you get that sort of sound as if you double tracked type of thing. So it's not so much about getting a nice swooshy, phasey kind of sound like you would if you were like Andy Summers and the Police. It's just about creating a nice spatial stereo sound. But look, all of this stuff has just become even easier with this, and even more responsive and just even more lush. So look, I'll say no more. You've heard what it does. You understand what we did and how we did it. What are we going to do next? Well, this was expensive, but we came out of it with lots of good knowledge and lots of gear, because you do need equipment to be able to do this right, particularly with the Brian May stuff. So you need stuff like load boxes and stuff to manage the gain staging and all that type of crack. I've now got an arsenal of that stuff, thanks to everyone for their support. And I will, not immediately, but I will in the future, we'll be traveling to the United Kingdom to meet some very lovely old amps and to put them through the same torturous process and hopefully make them available. So at some point I might be announcing another Kickstarter to pay for the plane fares and all that type of fun stuff. Again, any support is appreciated. And what I would say now is, if you check the link below, you'll see that there's a nice web form that comes with a nice manual that explains step by step how to get this stuff to work. If you're already familiar with how it works, there's presets and some models there that you might want to try in ToneX and Amplitude. But also, if you want to just hop onto tone.net, just search for my name, one word, Thomas Brunkert, and you'll find those models. I'm going to play some guitar now. I've talked enough. Talk to you all soon.